The outer sect believed news climbed upward like smoke. It did not. Smoke drifted, scattered, and vanished against roofs. News in Azure Cloud sect climbed through ledgers. At sunset, Lin Fan's reassessment entered 3 ledgers. The first was the ration register, where a clerk changed his grain allotment by half a tier and noted medical observation in small characters beside the margin. That ledger went to the storehouse deacon. The second was the outer ranking board record, where his old score and new placement were preserved to prevent disputes. That ledger went to the discipline hall twice a month, unless an elder marked it for early review. The third was Elder Gu's private symptom record, which did not officially exist. That one stayed in Elder Gu's sleeve until night. By then, the inner sect had already heard enough to become curious. Not because anyone cared about Lin Fan. Because movement around him had touched systems that important people used to measure risk. In the lower storehouse, Deacon Su frowned at the ration change and counted the remaining half-tier tokens. Half-tier adjustments were irritating. They did not fit cleanly into monthly allocations, and outer disciples with half-steps in status often produced arguments at serving pots. Lin Fan, he muttered. The name meant nothing. The notation beside it meant more. Medical observation. Elder Gu. Provisional rank shift. Deacon Su tapped the ledger. Provisional meant unstable. Elder Gu meant useful or troublesome. Rank shift meant other disciples would complain. Complaints meant paperwork. Paperwork meant the possibility of being blamed if resources were miscounted later. He copied the entry onto a thin slip and placed it in the evening bundle sent uphill. Not out of suspicion. Out of self-protection. That was how many important reports began. At the same hour, the maintenance office received Elder Gu's request for old water flow maps beneath the West Training Yard. The clerk in charge was a sleepy man with dry eyes and a talent for surviving by never volunteering interpretation. He pulled 3 maps from a warped cabinet and discovered that the oldest map had a torn corner. The tear covered the 3rd outer mountain drainage line. He stared at it for a long time. Then he wrote, "Map incomplete due to age damage," and stamped the note with more force than necessary. Incomplete maps made elders suspicious. Suspicious elders asked who stored them. The clerk added a second note, "Recommend comparison with inner archive copy." That note went uphill as well. By the time moonlight touched the inner ridge tiles, 2 slips and 1 map request had reached the outer affairs desk of the inner sect. The disciple on night duty there was named Xianxia. He had entered the inner sect last year and still believed diligence could become destiny if noticed by the right elder. He sorted slips by category, resource, punishment, maintenance, medical, talent, anomaly. Most outer reports went to resource or punishment. Very few deserved talent. Anomaly was used only when a matter crossed categories in a way that might embarrass someone later. Lin Fan's name appeared on a ration slip. Then on a ranking notice. Then on a maintenance request tied to Elder Gu. Xianxia placed the 3 slips side by side. Outer disciple. Low-grade root. Recent spirit root test abnormality. Medical observation. Sudden ranking rise. West Training Yard drainage map. He hesitated over the categories. Resource, clearly. Medical, perhaps. Maintenance, apparently. Talent, not enough. Anomaly? He frowned. Using anomaly too easily made seniors think one lacked judgment. Failing to use anomaly when a matter later grew teeth made seniors think one lacked eyes. Xianxia had survived the inner sect by fearing both outcomes equally. He selected anomaly. The 3 slips went into a lacquered tray with a black edge. The black-edged tray was rarely used for outer names. Most inner disciples treated the outer mountain as weather below the ridge. Rain made mud. Wind broke signs. Outer disciples failed, fought, improved, and disappeared in quantities too large to mourn individually. Unless a name touched income, reputation, bloodline, or danger, it remained below. That was why the tray mattered. It did not announce importance. It announced inconvenience. An inconvenient name could climb faster than a praised one because nobody wished to be the person who had ignored it first. Xianxia understood this well enough to add a cover note. Possible cross-category irregularity. No recommendation. No recommendation protected him. It also made the next reader responsible. He sanded the ink, blew lightly, and regretted the breath immediately. The ration slip shifted, revealing one more line he had nearly missed. Prior complaint involving Zhang who dismissed by junior steward. Xianxia stared at it. Bullying records were common. Dismissed complaints were more common. But when a bullied low-grade disciple rose suddenly, prior negligence became a blade pointed backward through the administration. He added the complaint notation to the cover. Then he stopped. Too much detail looked eager. He crossed out nothing. Crossing out showed fear. Instead, he placed a second blank slip beneath the first so the ink would not mark the tray. That tiny act of caution ensured the bundle would be handled carefully by the next clerk. Systems moved through such cowardices. 2 hours later, that tray passed through the hands of an inner steward, then a records assistant, then a woman in pale blue who had been reading by lamp in the Hall of Quiet Records. She was not yet an elder. She was more dangerous than many of them. Yuqing lifted the first slip and read Lin Fan's name without expression. Her face was fine-boned, almost delicate, but there was nothing soft in the way her eyes moved across a page. She was 17, already an inner disciple, and known for a water moon sword route that made her techniques appear slower than they were. In the first life, Lin Fan had encountered her years later on the edge of a ruined inheritance field. By then, she had learned to smile while deciding who could be saved and who should be spent. In this life, she did not know him. Not yet. The Hall of Quiet Records suited her too well. Rows of shelves rose behind her in disciplined darkness. Each shelf held bamboo slips, paper ledgers, jade fragments for higher matters, and sealed boxes whose labels were written in codes outer disciples would never see. Lamps burned behind blue glass, turning the room cold even where flame touched oil. Disciples assigned here learned to walk softly because records had their own dignity, and because Yuqing disliked unnecessary sound. She had earned the assignment after correcting a senior clerk's misfiled death notice without being asked. The dead disciple had belonged to no important family, but the correction exposed a smuggling route through funeral allotments. 2 stewards lost positions. 1 elder lost a convenient income stream. Yuqing gained enemies, access, and a reputation for seeing where ink had been arranged to make others stop looking. That reputation made the assistant nervous now. He watched her read Lin Fan's slips and tried not to shift weight. Yuqing noticed the attempt, which was worse than shifting. She read the ration slip. Then the ranking notice. Then the maintenance request. Outer disciple Lin Fan, she said. The records assistant straightened. Senior sister you? Why is a low-grade outer disciple touching 3 categories in one day? Elder Gu marked medical observation. The ranking shift appears legitimate. The maintenance request is unrelated, perhaps. Yuqing looked at him. The assistant corrected himself. Possibly related. Everything is possibly related when an elder does not explain himself. She placed the slips down in order of time. Rank shift after confinement. Maintenance map request after pre-dawn absence rumors. Ration change after assessment. The pattern was small, but small patterns were often cleaner than large ones. A large conspiracy gathered dirt. A small anomaly showed the original direction before people had time to hide footprints. Who challenged him, she asked. No formal challenge recorded. Who watched him? Elder Gu and lower court clerks. Outer disciples? Several. Names. The assistant hesitated. The report did not include all observers. Yuqing's gaze returned to the page. Then the report is lazy. The assistant lowered his head. She did not scold further. Scolding wasted breath after the point was made. Send for the lower court timestrip record tomorrow. Quietly. Also ask whether Hanwei has filed any sparring request in the past 3 days. Han Wei, senior sister? He watches changes in impact. If a weak disciple becomes interesting, he will have noticed before the ledgers did. The assistant wrote it down. Yu Qing leaned back. She did not care about Lin Fan as a person. Not yet. She cared because Azure Cloud Sect was full of old sealed places, half-rotten systems, and elders who preferred private benefit to public clarity. A low-grade disciple suddenly rising after touching an old drainage line might be a lucky insect. It might also be the first crack above a buried chamber. Inner disciples were taught to step over insects. Yu Qing had lived long enough to know that some insects carried poison from graves. Far below the inner ridge, Lin Fan sat in his room with his back against the wall and felt a new kind of attention brush the outer edge of the day. Not spiritual sense. Pattern pressure. When systems moved around a person, the air changed even before names were spoken. Messengers took different paths. Stewards used careful words. Clerks looked twice at records they would normally stamp once. Lin Fan had commanded sects, crushed sects, and rebuilt sects from frightened survivors. He knew the sound of administration beginning to turn its head. Good. Too much secrecy became suffocation. Too much attention became a cage. The correct middle was a blade held near the skin. He rotated the first burial ring once and stopped. The hunger settled more quickly tonight. Progress. Outside, a roof tile clicked softly. Lin Fan did not move. The listener above was different from the previous one. Lighter. Better balance. Breath held during wind rather than after. Not Han Wei. Not an elder Gu steward. Perhaps one of Han Wei's people, perhaps someone from the ranking clusters, perhaps a disciple hoping to sell an observation. Lin Fan let his breathing remain uneven. The watcher stayed for half an incense stick, learned nothing except that Lin Fan seemed to be resting, and left. When the footsteps faded, Lin Fan opened his eyes. He reached under the table and touched the boundary mark he had scratched over the chamber's symbol. The mark was still there. The chamber beneath the sect did not call tonight. That concerned him more than if it had. Silence after recognition could mean patience. It could also mean the first call had already been answered by something else. In the inner records hall, Yu Qing folded the 3 slips together and placed them beneath a paperweight shaped like a crescent blade. At the edge of the inner ridge, Han Wei's name entered the movement from another direction. He did not file a report. He filed a request. 1 hour of private post access before dawn, West Training Yard, no witnesses required. The training office clerk looked at the request, recognized Han Wei's handwriting, and approved it automatically. Han Wei trained hard, broke little, and paid repair fees without argument. That made him one of the rare outer disciples clerks did not resent. Then the clerk saw the location. West Training Yard. 3rd post row. He remembered the map request from Elder Gu. Clerks survived by fearing coincidences. The request copy went into the same evening bundle as the map note. By midnight, Yu Qing had read it as well. She placed Han Wei's request beside Lin Fan's rank shift and the drainage map. The pattern gained another point. Not proof. Proof was for public hearings and people too slow to act before them. This was direction. Yu Qing turned to the assistant. If Han Wei trains there tomorrow, who has authority to observe? Training office, lower court deacons, Elder Gu if he wishes. And inner disciples? Not normally. Not normally is not no. The assistant lowered his head. A records audit could require visual confirmation of old post repairs. Good. Prepare that. For you? For anyone I send. She did not yet intend to go herself. That changed after she looked again at Lin Fan's time strip numbers. Numbers were supposed to flatten people into categories. These did the opposite. They suggested a person pressing himself into a category from above, shaping the visible result with care. Yu Qing had seen disciples hide strength before. This felt less like hiding strength and more like hiding the reason strength knew where to stand. That difference held her attention. The assistant dared a question only after the silence had stretched long enough to become another instruction. Senior sister, should this be sent to Inner Affairs? No. Discipline Hall? No. Elder Gu? He already knows enough to be irritated if we tell him less and suspicious if we tell him more. The assistant lowered his brush. Then what should be done? Yuqing looked again at Lin Fan's name. Nothing official. He hesitated. That is a decision? Often the most expensive one. She placed the slips under the crescent paperweight, but did not release them immediately. A public file turns a question into property. The moment this becomes inner affairs matter, everyone involved begins defending jurisdiction instead of looking at the thing itself. And the thing itself is Lin Fan? No, Yuqing said. The thing itself is what moved when he did. The assistant did not understand. That was acceptable. Do not circulate this yet, she said. The assistant bowed. Yes, senior sister. If Elder Gu asks who requested the strip record, say records audit. And if he asks who ordered the audit? Yuqing's mouth curved faintly. Then he will already know. The assistant decided not to ask further. When he left, Yuqing looked once more at the name on the slip. Lin Fan. She had seen many sudden rises. Most collapsed under pride, poison, or the hands of those who disliked surprises. This one had a different shape. The reports did not mention boasting. No challenge rights. No public claim. No request for resources beyond what Elder Gu assigned. A disciple could be lucky. A disciple could be hiding. A disciple could be used. The interesting question was which role Lin Fan had chosen for himself. Yuqing extinguished the lamp. Above the outer mountain, clouds slid across the moon. Below, the sect's attention shifted by a fraction. Lin Fan felt none of the specific names yet. But he knew one thing with certainty. The inner sect had begun to notice movement. That meant the next attack might not come from fists.